Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with episode 32. My name is Jason.
My name is Dave.
I'm Coach Corian.
And we are anchored at Harbor Park. Today we're going to talk about bad days and dealing with struggle.
Episode 32. That is just crazy.
We're almost a year old.
Wow.
And we're almost at my age.
We're at mine. Yay.
So old.
I know.
We passed mine a while ago.
Well, this episode dealing with bad days and struggle is great for the icebreaker that we have today because we are all about improving and growth mindsets. So tell me what you're listening to. What books are you reading, podcasts, or anything like that?
I am reading Daring Greatly because I heard great things from everyone who's read it. And it's something I really struggle with. I always used to be the guy who turned off my feelings and thought like vulnerability was weakness. So I'm excited to learn and improve.
Yeah, I just listened to that thanks to our book club that's meeting this Thursday. So if you want to come join us for the book club on Thursday.
Maren told me.
Yep.
I think I'm busy though.
All right, well, I'm going to be there. And that's why I started listening to that one. And it sounds really mean. I didn't want to like it because I like so many like self-growth books that I was like, can this one really be that different from all the ones that I've listened to? And I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was amazing. So I think you're really going to enjoy that one.
And then I'm currently listening to the second book. It's not necessarily in order. You can listen to these books in any order. So it's not like it is, but it's their second book. It's Dare to Lead. And then I'm going to go back and read when Jason's done Daring Greatly.
I want to do the Dare to Lead once you're done with it too. So we all just kind of share our books, which is nice. One of the things that I'm struggling with when it comes to listening to these as audiobooks, I get through a lot more, but I really want the book as a hardcover so I can go back, underline, review things. There's a lot of things in there that it's like stop and then write down certain things or think about something. And obviously with an Audible, that's really hard. And the book that I'm listening to right now that I desperately want as a hardcover book is Why We Fail. And for the life of me, I can't remember who that's by unless I look at my phone right now. But its concept is the fact that we have so many books on how to succeed, how to have positive mindsets. It's by Simon Reynolds. That this book is dealing with the inevitability that at some point you are going to fail and that we do set ourselves up subconsciously for failure sometimes. So how to like handle that. And I think that goes really well with like dealing with the struggle. One of literally the first chapter or second chapter talks about like writing out your life goal or your life's purpose, your work's purpose, and then your weekly purpose. And for whatever reason, that like blew my mind. So I did that, and now I have them posted all over, like on my lamp next to my bed. I have one in my office, and then I have them in my car. And so that's already something I've implemented from that book. But that I definitely think that we need that as a hard copy book. So.
Very cool. Should we talk about bad days and dealing with struggle?
It is loud and pumping in here. We've got Test Week going, and everybody is just hyped up.
So hopefully you can hear us. Maybe we'll just try to talk a little bit louder. If you can't, good. I mean, if you can't hear what's going on in the background, just a lot of music. So hopefully you can't, and we're just talking about this for nothing. But anyway, so this kind of came up because last week I had a bad day. Last Thursday, I let some stress get the best of me. And then I realized when I started going to yoga, it was my second class. The first time I went, it was like really easy. I was excited. I was really focused, did really good. And then my second class, I was expecting the same. And then, I couldn't hold my focus. I couldn't hold the positions. Yoga is so much mental and keeping your mind clear. You're just focusing on your breathing and holding the positions. I kept falling out of position and all this stuff, and stuff started to hurt. And I realized, like, it's okay. Like, you're not always going to crush everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not every day is going to be awesome. Sometimes you just kind of have to do your best. And so as soon as I dropped the stress about not doing good, I was just like, okay, let's just see what I can do. And that kind of, like, it relieved some pressure. Obviously, no one likes bad days. No one likes feeling like you didn't do your best, but it happens sometimes, and it's okay. It's just kind of how you react to it, and make sure even though you aren't doing what you planned or whatever, you're still moving forward in the direction you want to go.
I think that's a huge thing. I think that everybody expects a path to be a certain way, or life or goals or business to kind of happen. We're in this new age of technology where 90% of people only post their best side and all their successes, that we feel that we're not winning when we have a bad day or multiple bad days because we don't think anybody else does. But you're right, like, we all have bad days, and how we handle them is probably the biggest difference between all of us. Is just, are you going to accept it and learn from it and analyze it, or is it going to eat you up inside?
So let's talk about how you all handle stress. Jason, what did you do?
Stress is interesting. Specifically for me, and probably a lot of guys, in our culture, specifically, how I thought about it is, like, I had to be able to handle all my stress. Like, if you need help, if you need to ask people for help or go to someone, like, that's weakness on a guy's part. And that's kind of how I've always thought about it. I'm realizing now that's totally wrong and very immature. But yeah, so, and sometimes you fall back into those old habits, and so you bottle it up, and you say, this is something I'm going to deal with. And then when enough stress gets built up, the lid kind of pops off. And so for me, it was kind of like, I just had this breaking point where like, I kind of just had to turn everything off and just stop, like, working and stop thinking for like 30 minutes. This was on Thursday. I didn't even want to go to yoga. I was like, screw it. I'm glad I eventually did go, because that made me, like, realize that this is normal. But yeah, it's tough, especially for guys in today's, or like, modern society. We're taught, like, guys are strong, guys have to deal with it on their own, like, bottle it up, don't talk about it, type of stuff.
What if, oh God, I'm gonna sneeze. What if we change the way, so what you said is guys have to handle it, and that going and asking for help or talking to other people is weakness, but honestly, that's just a version of handling it. So you're handling it just like you should be. You're just choosing a different way to handle it.
Right.
So looking at it just differently that way might kind of change your perspective or internal feelings on it then,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you had some realization. I'm not glad that you had a bad day, but I think that it's inevitable, like you said, and we need those bad days, whether it's personally, professionally, or anything in between. You need those bad days so that we can learn and we can grow and move on from it. Is there anything in particular that you learned from it other than how to handle your stress that you can share? Like,
no, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I kind of knew, like, it wasn't like a revelatory moment. It was just like I said, it was kind of falling in old habits.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was really dumb. Like, I know better.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have let that happen.
I think my hardest thing is, like, for me personally, when I'm stressed, like, part of me knows, like, I'm stressed, And I'm like, okay, I got to do something about this, but I'm just so stressed. I'm just angry and like I don't know what to do. And so like it's like this vicious cycle, and like trying to break that, like you said, and get out of those old habits is kind of hard. One of the things that my life coach that I was working with, Grant, helped me with is he said to not blow the lid off the top of that. You need to give yourself time every day to kind of handle stress in little doses. That way it doesn't get to that boil over point. So I'm trying to work on taking 5 to 10 minutes throughout my day, even if I'm not actively feeling stress, to just kind of calm, breathe, kind of let my mind run through maybe anything that happened. Like today for me, Mondays are super crazy. I'm training now. We've got the podcast. I'm doing a seminar at so I'm feeling very overwhelmed and stressed. And I know that if I just take that 5 minutes, catch my breath, let my body run through what it thinks it's stressing about, I won't be as likely to get to that point of blowing up.
Right, and that's I guess this is maybe something to answer a question that I just thought of. So yes, is this has never happened to me before. I normally handle stress very well. I usually don't let stress get to me. So I guess if you think you're that kind of person, like, just understand it can happen and like not to take it lightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it affects everybody differently. So me, I'm kind of like you, Jason. I tend to bottle it up, or at least I used to be. I get quiet, and then because my thing is I want to think about it. So I don't like to, because I don't want to overreact. So I want to stew on it, think about it, and then really I don't want to talk about it. So like not until I've had a chance to maybe digest it.
Does not go well in our relationship all the time because I like to talk right now.
Right.
But I'm learning.
So if something happens for me, like I just want to have that opportunity, and it could take, a day or two just to go over it in my head. And then one thing I am working on though is not letting, because everybody tells themselves stories. I think that's a big thing too. Mm-hmm. It's like, so we typically, you read something on social media or you'll do something and that makes you even more angry. So one thing I try to do is don't go on social media if I'm angry.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, whatever's bothering me or stressing me out, I just stay off social media. I try, obviously, getting rid of cables helped because then you get away from all the negative talk on the news and all that. And then I just like to, like I said, digest it. Then once I think about it, and I can come up with a game plan on how to respond. One thing that's kind of helped me lately is that I've said this before, is meditation. So that gives me about 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. So first thing I do before I do anything is meditate. I throw my headspace on. Like right now I'm going through a sequence of on sleep just to help with that. But I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's like that's kind of like my time, my reflection time, and then I don't know. I feel like it sets me up for success for the day. I feel
clears your head really well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like your yoga thing that you were saying. And then my personal release is obviously working out. So like when I'm really, really stressed, I love to lift weights. So I'm excited today because Mondays are stressful for me too. It's just the beginning of the week. I want to make sure we hammer it hard. So I want to make sure I get my test week day one in today. Sure, there's 3 lifts.
That's part of why I don't really I don't have the stress release in working out like I used to have.
Oh, I'm sure that's a huge part of it.
Yes, I'm sure that played a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is probably why when you went to yoga, even though like you didn't want to go, that same thing with the gym. Like some days I don't want to be here and I don't want to lift. But once I do it, then I feel good. So then you went, you were frustrated at yoga, but then you're just like, hey, enjoy it. I'm here. I'm getting some of this energy out. And then your body was able to work through some of those things that you had going on in your mind.
The cool thing, so speaking of Headspace, and you probably have done, I know you do Headspace, but I was doing a segment and it was talking about stress. And one of the things that kind of helped me, it was kind of cool, is when you're feeling stressed, is not focusing so much on like what's bothering you, like this little topic or whatever is bothering me. Is actually think about like in the world that you're not the only one who's stressing. Whether it's, let's say, you're thinking about maybe Corian going to her speech tonight, or you're dealing with something, like if you think about it in like a grander scheme of things, the way he was saying it is, if you think about everybody in the world has stress, you're not the only one, and then it's supposed to help you kind of realize like, I'm not alone in the world. Like, everybody deals with this. It's okay.
Right.
Like, this is normal.
Or even just like frame it like, I'm pretty sure whatever we're stressing about, you know, whether it's work or relationships or whatever, like someone has it way worse. And it's like, keep that in mind. If you're going through something tough and you're not dealing with it well, just remember, chances are what you have is not that bad. Like, sure, it's not fun. You'd rather not have to deal with it, but, you know, those people that are living in the streets, they don't have homes, don't have cars, they're not going to eat tonight, you know, so those are real things to stress out about, whereas, you know, we have minor inconveniences compared to those people.
So, like, we shouldn't be super stressed about our sports team that lost?
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, like, I think that we do it to ourselves. Like, we kind of put too much stress on ourselves. You read in the newspaper, it's negative. You're listening to the news, it's negative. You're on social media, there's a lot of negatives on there, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And I think a lot of times, like, we let it kind of affect us, you know, like you do.
Yeah.
Like you said, if there's so much negative around us that it just affects us more. Whereas if you just realize, like, you can't change that. There's nothing you can do, like politics. Like, when people talk about that, it's like, well, the only thing you can do is make your vote. There's nothing else you can really do.
Well, and like, I think
why bother?
You talked about it, like you were building stories up, or for me, like I get mostly stressed about my schedule. So in my head, I'm running through all the things that I have to do, and I'm like, there's not enough time, and I need to work out, and I didn't make my food, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, okay, just sit and just deal with it and, like, take it as it comes. Like, okay, it's not that bad. Maybe write out my schedule for the day, make sure that there's enough things, figure out what's most important today versus what can I do tomorrow. I don't need to tell myself stories about, you know, these things that are going on. I think, you know, the hardest part is, like you said, like, in the future, like, okay, so what's going on with Carthage tonight? I don't know. And, like, so I'm stressed about it, but I'm trying not to tell myself stories. I'm like, just enjoy it, enjoy the moment. And, you know.
I was on mute there. One of the things that you can do, like you touched on it, to help get rid of stress is schedules, making sure you schedule out your stuff, like you said, so you have enough time, and then staying in a routine. So that's huge for me too. It's just, if you're in a routine, you can generally, like, you know, you wake up at the same time every day. That way you ensure that you have enough time to do things, whereas, you know, think about that too. If you're not in a routine, and you're jam-packed for the day, but you sleep until 9 or 10, and then you're like, well, now I have an hour before I got to be at work. Like, you left yourself no time to plan out your meals or eat healthy. So, you know, I wake up by 6 a.m. every day, get my coffee, do my headspace, then it's eat breakfast and start cooking my meals for the whole day.
I think too, not even do you have to schedule out. I just had a client that, you know, she's got a lot of stuff coming up, and she was pretty stressed. And I said, she, you know, sat down with me, and she just word vomited 30 things she needed to get done in 2 weeks. And I said, listen, let's just take a deep breath. What has to be done right now? What are of those things that you just spit at me? What are the 3 most important things that are time sensitive that would make things seem like you're, you know, like you're accomplishing something? And she just wrote those 3 things. And she started to list more. And I'm like, nope, stop. Let's deal with these 3 things today. Tomorrow, I want, tonight before you go to bed, write 3 things you want to deal with tomorrow. And within 4 or 5 days, she was calm, she was relaxed. And I think we get so caught up in time and, you know, like we said, not having enough time, that we forget that there is always tomorrow. And if there's not, you know, did you do the most important things today? And I think that I used to let stress affect me really, really bad. And I would project that to everybody else. You guys are both looking at me like, yeah, you did. And I think that's something that I'm learning to deal with is, you know, going into certain times of the year or certain projects that I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to get stressed. I give you guys a heads up, like, hey, these are the things that I'm going to need. And then just making sure that I'm focused on the 3 most important things has really changed how I've gotten through stressful times, stressful days, or anything like that.
We have an episode on, like, productivity. So if this is an area of weakness for you, go back and listen to that. how to like prioritize your tasks. So you're doing the most important stuff versus urgent stuff, all that good stuff, planning your day. Yeah, like what Dave kind of said, I totally agree with, is if you're just getting up whenever and you don't budget any time to plan, then you're just reactive all day, which being reactive is super stressful versus if you get up a little bit early, plan your meals, plan your day. If you have a planner or whatever you use, then you're actually kind of more offensive with your day versus defensive.
Yeah, and then because you have the plan, if something comes at you, you can deal with it.
Yeah, you're a little bit more agile in that sense.
Yeah.
Another thing is, a lot of us oftentimes stress about things that are uncontrollable. So we don't have any control. We can't do anything about it, and we let that eat up a lot of our mental capacity. It's something I struggle with a lot, and just realizing, like you said about, like politics, it's out of our hands. Like, it's not easy, I realize that, but don't worry about things that it doesn't matter what you do, the outcome's going to be the same regardless. So it might suck, but there's nothing you can do about it. So don't put a lot of mental effort into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes people don't know where to focus their attention. So they, rather than focusing their attention on things that they can change and do have control over because it seems overwhelming, they stress about things they don't control. Politics, the weather, other people's driving, all of these other things, so that we don't look at the things that are maybe most glaring in our life that we really should be focusing on. So I think that, like you said, we had that episode on productivity, so like we could go on for days about how to do that. But when you're feeling stressed out, what are some other techniques or what are some things that we can do in that moment to kind of get out of that stress? I know we touched on some of them. I've got a couple more if you guys don't.
You can jump in.
All right. So one of the biggest things is, like, I try to tell people, like, just like working out or your job in general, being positive and getting out of stress is not an easy thing to learn. It takes practice. And like you said, sometimes we'll be in that moment of stress and we know we're stressed, so we're at least learning to identify it, but we still have a hard time getting out of it. And if we just keep practicing some things every day. So one of the things that I try to tell my clients, or myself, to be honest, is like posting positive things. So like I talked about earlier, like my life purpose and my work purpose and my week purpose. Or, I don't follow politics on Facebook or Instagram. I follow like pets and food because it makes me feel better. And, I surround myself with those positive things. And then I just try to realize, like, other people, it's not their fault that I'm stressed or that I'm having a bad day. So I try to project still positivity towards them. Basically, Jen Sincero will say, smile until it feels real. So it's not that I'm trying to smile and be a fake person. I'm just trying to get myself out of my own funk by making myself be positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I have a nutrition client right now that I'm working with. She is much better now, but when I first started with her, it was very negative all the time. Very negative, always looking at the negative. And I'm like, well, that just adds more stress onto you, which then is just a slippery slope. So one of the things that I'm implementing with her, because it's more than just nutrition, is she has to give me, and she has to put it in her log so I can read it. But, no matter what's going on in her day, she has to post, or at least write down one thing that happened in the day that was positive. So she's been working on that, and I can tell that it's making a difference in her weight loss journey and her stress level, because no matter, now I'm starting to see it as it's going. She'll be like, it was stressful today, but here's what happened. I did this or that. And now she has a better positive mindset on the day.
Yeah.
And then one thing that you kind of touched on, Corian, that I do think is important is when we're negative, or if you feel negative or stressed all the time, what do we usually say is you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So take a look at the people you're keeping friends with and hanging around, and understand that if you're in, let's say you have friends from work, and your work environment is very negative, and those are the only people you're hanging around with, or maybe you're always going to the bar, that's where you hang out at, you're going to be the sum of those 5 people. So understand that you're also that type of person. So if you want to get out of that funk, kind of you got to change what you're doing and who you're hanging around with.
Yeah. And again, it takes time and it takes effort, and it's not an overnight thing. One of the things that I'll admit that I've implemented in the last week, still kind of awkward and weird to say out loud, is positive self-talk before I go to bed. So I have my nightly routine. We get into bed, I journal, I read a little bit. My phone's charging in the bathroom. It's not by my nightstand. And as I lay down, I let myself kind of let my mind wander, run through the things for the day. But then I always try to say really positive things like, you're living your dream, you're being an entrepreneur. I say positive things about my body, like you're strong and you're getting stronger and you're lean and, your dreads look beautiful today. Just anything that I can say, and it's really hard. And sometimes in my own head, I'll laugh at myself, and then I'm realizing that I'm just being negative and again, being very guarded, even to my own self in my own head. I'm like still putting up those walls. So it's been about a week. I've been sleeping pretty good, I will admit. I think the positive self-talk is getting a little bit better every night, so we'll see where that goes.
It's definitely one of those things that's very weird to do, at least to start.
Yeah.
But, yeah, once you do it, it's one of those things where they say, fake it till you make it, and you start believing those things that you're saying to yourself, and then that's when they start to happen. That's once you start to believe them.
Yeah, I always tell people, would you say that to your daughter, your son, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister? Would you say those mean things? And they're like, oh, God, no. I said, then why are we saying them about ourselves? So, I wouldn't, the mean things that are going on inside my head, I would never say to someone else and put them down the way that I put myself down. So I think that even though I feel I'm really positive and I'm getting out of my stress, I still negatively look at myself. And in order to change that, I have to change how I think. And I think over the last week, like I said, I've been sleeping better. I feel much more productive. I do feel less stressed. Doesn't mean that tomorrow I won't wake up feeling like shit. I'm not going to lie. There's going to be more bad days. It's not like this is never going to happen again. But I feel like I've got the ball rolling in a new direction. So.
Yeah, and then one thing I'm trying to do, which is, again, the positive talk, maybe not looking at the negative. We teach this to our clients, too. Instead of looking at the WOD and being, oh, this is going to suck. Well, now you just told yourself it is, and now you're usually going to live that up.
You've planted that seed.
Yeah, you're going to be like, well, yep, it sucked. But if you look at things positive, like this is going to be fun, I'm going to hit a PR, I'm going to try to. May not always happen, but at least you're going into things with a positive mindset. So going through your day.
Or even saying, this is going to be a good challenge. Learn something today.
Yeah, but not being like, oh, this is going to hurt, or this sucks, or because even in the middle of the WOD, if you're believing that it hurts, it's going to hurt. Whereas if took a lot of practice on my end too. I've been doing that a lot, is not going into those WODs with that mindset. And I think we tell people that all the time. I can't do a pull-up. No, we don't say can't. You're going to try, and we're going to get there. But, you might not be able to do it today, but it will be eventually. But if we keep saying can't and you keep looking at negative things throughout the day, that's one thing. So what I'm trying to do is go through the whole day and try to find the positives through those days. Like I said, instead of finding, the one thing, instead of being like, oh, it's fucking cold out and it's freezing and it's raining, and maybe it's, the sun's shining today.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's not easy. It's not overnight. Even in your own head, you're going to feel fucking silly and laugh at yourself and be like, why am I saying these things? But you got to keep doing it. You got to keep fighting it. And I feel like sometimes that's where I fail as a coach, is I tell all these other people all these great ways to feel better about themselves. And then I reflect back and I'm like, oh shit, I'm not doing that stuff.
That's why I'm a really good coach, is because I'm really good at telling people what to do. I'm not so good at doing it myself.
I think that's where the three of us benefit from each other, though, is because at least we've got each other. Like, hey, this is what we would tell our clients, Jay. You should, maybe read this book, or go for a walk, or go do your yoga. So
yeah, well, we got very vulnerable on this
yeah, we did.
episode, but I guess the point of it is to understand that, you guys may see us as being positive all the time, but we have bad days just like everyone else. Everyone has a bad day, and it's how you deal with it that gets over it. So Jason's had a bad day. He said he recently had one. I recently had one a couple months back. Corey, and I'm sure you've had one. You've even said so. We all have bad days. It's just how do we get out of that funk so it doesn't define us or continue.
And I will positively tell you that all the people that you follow on social media, all the celebrities and all the athletes and everything you follow, if they haven't posted about having a bad day, they still fucking have them. They're just not letting themselves be vulnerable and show you.
Right. So not everybody's life is perfect that they like you to see on social media.
Nope. Can I end this with a quote I have?
I love it. I was hoping you wouldn't forget about it.
Yes. Brought to us by
Tyler Sullivan. I assume you all saw it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Sometimes social media can be good.
Yeah.
When you find good quotes. Not every day has to be a masterpiece. Sometimes all you need to do is paint.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's a good post.
But that just, real quick, it's about who you're surrounding yourself with, Jay. Positive people, right? Yeah. So if anybody's having a hard day out there, just know that you're not alone. And if you ever need anything, we're here. And we have bad days, and you'll have bad days, but it will get better, and we'll get through it.
Just get to the gym and work out.
Just
get
paint.
rid of that stress. All right, Harbor Park, stay classy. We'll see you next episode.
Adios.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.